Ma'am, this bank is for premium clients. Please leave before you embarrass yourself. I only came to open an account. With those clothes, you can't even meet the minimum balance. Please stop.
Every customer deserves respect. I'll help you.
If you help her, you can pack your desk. Sometimes the person you throw out today is the reason you'll lose everything tomorrow.
Sarah Mitchell had dreamed of working at Crest National Bank ever since she graduated from college. Located in downtown Chicago, the bank was known for serving successful business owners, investors, and high-profile clients. Landing a job there had felt like the beginning of a better life. Reality, however, was very different. Although Sarah worked harder than anyone else on her team, she was constantly overlooked. Her branch manager, Rebecca Collins, believed appearance mattered more than character. She assigned wealthy-looking customers to senior bankers while Sarah handled paperwork, answered routine questions, and dealt with complaints no one else wanted. Sarah never argued. She had grown up in a modest home where her parents taught her that respect was something you gave freely, not something people had to earn with money. Every morning she arrived before everyone else, prepared the customer service desks, organized documents, and made sure every client was greeted with a smile. Most people barely noticed her, but she continued doing her best because she believed one good opportunity could change her future. That Monday afternoon, the bank was unusually busy. Luxury cars filled the parking lot as business executives came in for appointments. Employees rushed from desk to desk trying to impress important clients. Rebecca walked across the lobby confidently, reminding everyone to focus only on customers with premium accounts. The bank's reputation comes first, she said. Don't waste time on people who aren't serious clients. Sarah quietly nodded and returned to organizing customer files. A few moments later, the entrance doors opened. An elderly woman slowly walked inside wearing a faded blue coat and carrying an old handbag that looked decades old. Her shoes were worn, and her silver hair was neatly tied beneath a simple scarf. Several customers glanced at her before looking away. A young banker whispered something to his coworker, making both of them laugh. The woman looked around calmly before approaching the reception area. She smiled warmly and politely explained that she wanted information about opening a new account. Before Sarah could stand up, Rebecca stepped forward. She examined the woman's appearance from head to toe before forcing a smile that barely hid her disappointment. Without asking a single question, Rebecca assumed the woman couldn't afford the bank's services. She suggested that another neighborhood bank would be more suitable for her financial situation. The words were polite, but everyone understood their meaning. The elderly woman remained calm. She simply thanked Rebecca and quietly waited. Sarah watched the entire exchange from a nearby desk. Something about the woman's gentle expression reminded her of her late grandmother, who had always dressed simply despite having incredible wisdom. Ignoring the uncomfortable silence around her, Sarah walked over with a welcoming smile. She introduced herself, offered the woman a comfortable seat, and brought her a bottle of water. For the first time since entering the bank, the elderly woman smiled with genuine appreciation. Sarah patiently explained every type of account the bank offered, carefully answering each question without rushing. Nearly every employee in the lobby noticed. Some exchanged amused looks. Others quietly shook their heads, convinced Sarah was wasting valuable time. Rebecca watched everything from her office window. In her eyes, Sarah had once again chosen kindness over business. She had no idea that the next decision she made would change every life inside that branch forever. Rebecca finally walked out of her office, her expression cold and impatient. She stopped beside Sarah's desk and glanced at the elderly woman before speaking in a voice that everyone nearby could hear. She reminded Sarah that premium clients were waiting and that employees were expected to focus on customers who brought value to the bank. Every word was carefully chosen, but the message was obvious. Sarah calmly apologized and explained that every customer deserved the same level of service. Rebecca wasn't impressed. She instructed another employee to escort one of the bank's wealthiest clients to a private office while Sarah remained with the elderly woman. Several co-workers exchanged amused smiles. To them, Sarah was ruining her own career. The elderly woman quietly noticed every reaction but said nothing. Instead, she continued asking simple questions about the bank's services, investment options, and customer policies. Sarah answered each one patiently. She never looked at the woman's clothes. She never asked how much money she had. She simply treated her with the same professionalism she showed everyone else. After nearly 30 minutes, the elderly woman closed the information folder and smiled. "You've been very kind," she said softly. Sarah smiled back. "I was only doing my job." The woman slowly stood up. Before leaving, she thanked Sarah once again and walked toward the exit. Rebecca watched from across the lobby with obvious frustration. The moment the elderly woman disappeared through the front doors, she called Sarah into her office. The room fell silent. Rebecca closed the door behind them. She criticized Sarah for wasting valuable business hours on someone who, in her opinion, would never become a real client. Sarah respectfully disagreed. She explained that the bank's mission was built on trust and service, not appearance. Rebecca's patience disappeared. She removed Sarah from customer service duties for the rest of the week and reassigned her to filing records in the archive room. It wasn't a formal punishment, but everyone understood its purpose. As Sarah quietly collected the files, several coworkers shook their heads. Some felt sorry for her. Others believed she had brought the situation upon herself. Sarah never complained. She simply returned to work. Meanwhile, the elderly woman stepped into a black luxury sedan waiting across the street. The driver immediately opened the rear door. "Good afternoon, Mrs. Harrison," he said respectfully. She smiled and entered the vehicle. As the car pulled away, she looked back at the bank through the window. She had learned everything she needed to know. During the drive, she made a single phone call. "Daniel," she said calmly, "I'd like to see you this evening." Her son's voice answered immediately. "Of course, Mom. Is everything all right? I visited one of your branches today." There was a brief silence. "And I met one employee who treated me with genuine kindness." Daniel smiled. "I'm glad to hear that. But," she continued quietly, "I also witnessed something that should never happen inside a bank carrying your family's name." His smile disappeared. "What happened? I'll tell you when you arrive." That evening, Daniel Harrison, the CEO of Crest National Bank, arrived at his mother's estate after finishing a board meeting. He found her sitting peacefully in the garden. She described every detail of her visit. She explained how employees judged customers before asking a single question. She described the manager's behavior. Most importantly, she told him about the young employee who had treated her with dignity when everyone else had looked down on her. Daniel listened without interrupting. By the time she finished, his expression had become completely serious. He asked only one question. "Do you remember her name?" His mother smiled. "Sarah Mitchell." Daniel stood quietly for several seconds. Then he took out his phone. He called the head of internal operations. "I want every security recording from the downtown Chicago branch," he said firmly. "Every camera, every angle. Today only." The executive immediately agreed. Less than an hour later, Daniel sat alone inside his office, watching the footage. He saw Sarah offering the elderly woman a seat. He saw her bringing water without being asked. He watched Rebecca dismiss the customer before learning anything about her. He watched employees laughing in the background. When the recording ended, Daniel slowly leaned back in his chair. His decision was already made. He picked up the phone one more time. "Tomorrow morning," he said calmly, "I'm visiting that branch personally." Across the city, Sarah went to sleep believing she had damaged her career forever. She had no idea that by sunrise, her ordinary life was about to change in a way she could never have imagined. The next morning began like every other day at Crest National Bank. Employees hurried through the lobby, straightened their desks, and prepared for another busy schedule. Rebecca Collins arrived early, reminding everyone that an executive inspection could happen at any time. No one imagined how accurate that prediction would be. Sarah quietly returned to the archive room, expecting another long day away from customers. She accepted the assignment without complaint and focused on organizing hundreds of client files. At exactly 9:30 a.m., 3 black luxury SUVs pulled up outside the branch. Every conversation inside the bank stopped. Security officers stepped out first, followed by several executives dressed in dark business suits. Finally, a tall man wearing a tailored navy suit entered the building. The entire branch immediately recognized him. Daniel Harrison, the CEO of Crest National Bank. Rebecca rushed forward with a wide smile. "Mr. Harrison, what an honor. If we had known you were coming, we would have prepared a proper welcome." Daniel acknowledged her greeting with a polite nod, but his expression remained unreadable. Instead of asking about profits or performance reports, he looked around the lobby. "Is every employee present today?" he asked. Rebecca confidently answered yes. Daniel glanced toward the customer service desks. "I'd like to speak with Sarah Mitchell." Rebecca hesitated. "She's working in the archive room. Please ask her to join us." A few moments later, Sarah walked into the lobby carrying a folder, completely unaware of what was happening. When she realized the CEO himself was standing only a few feet away, she froze. Daniel offered a calm smile. "So you're Sarah?" She nervously nodded. "Yes, sir." Before another word could be spoken, the front doors opened again. The elderly woman from the previous afternoon walked inside. This time, no one laughed. No one whispered. She walked confidently across the lobby until she stood beside Daniel. The room became completely silent. Daniel gently smiled at her. "Good morning, Mom." The color drained from Rebecca's face. Several employees looked at one another in disbelief. The elderly woman was not an ordinary customer. She was the CEO's mother. Rebecca tried to speak, but no words came out. Daniel slowly turned toward the staff. "My mother visited this branch yesterday, without revealing who she was." He paused. She wanted to experience the same service every customer should receive. The silence became even heavier. Daniel continued. "Instead, she was judged before anyone knew her story." His eyes settled on Rebecca. The security footage showed everything. Rebecca's hands began to shake. She attempted to explain that she had only been protecting the bank's image. Daniel calmly interrupted. "Our image is not protected by expensive furniture or wealthy customers." He looked around the lobby. "It is protected by integrity." No one dared speak. Daniel then turned towards Sarah. "My mother told me you treated her with patience, dignity, and kindness. You never asked how much money she had. You only saw a person who needed help." Sarah lowered her eyes. "I was only doing my job." The elderly woman smiled warmly. "No, dear. You were doing something much greater than that." Daniel nodded in agreement. He opened a folder handed to him by one of the executives. Effective immediately, Rebecca Collins is relieved of her position pending a full internal investigation. A quiet gasp spread across the branch. Daniel continued reading. "Sarah Mitchell will be promoted to Customer Experience Manager. She will also join our Executive Leadership Development Program." Sarah looked up in complete disbelief. I don't know what to say." Daniel smiled. "You've already said enough through your actions." The employees who had ignored Sarah the previous day now looked at her with respect. Some felt ashamed. Others silently regretted the way they had treated both Sarah and the elderly woman. Before leaving, Daniel's mother walked over to Sarah and gently held her hands. "Never let this world convince you that kindness is weakness," she said softly. "It is the rarest form of strength." Tears filled Sarah's eyes as she thanked her. That afternoon, the atmosphere inside the bank felt completely different. Employees greeted every customer with genuine respect. No one was judged by their clothes. No one was ignored because of appearances. Months later, customer satisfaction at the branch reached the highest level in the bank's history. Sarah's leadership transformed not only the branch, but also the culture of everyone who worked there. And every time someone asked Daniel Harrison why he had promoted an ordinary employee so quickly, he always gave the same answer. "You can teach banking, you can teach finance, but you cannot teach a good heart." Sometimes the greatest opportunities arrive disguised as ordinary moments. And sometimes the person everyone overlooks becomes the one who changes everything. 6 months later, Crest National Bank had become a model branch for customer service across the country. People no longer talked about its luxury interiors or exclusive clients. Instead, they talked about the respect every customer received the moment they walked through the doors. Sarah had settled into her new leadership role with the same humility she had always carried. She still greeted customers personally, helped new employees, and reminded her team that every person entering the bank deserved to be treated with dignity. One afternoon, Daniel Harrison visited the branch again. This time, there were no executives, no cameras, and no formal inspection. He simply wanted to see whether the changes had lasted. As he walked through the lobby, he noticed something that made him smile. A homeless veteran had entered the bank asking for information about opening a basic savings account. Instead of judging him, one employee immediately welcomed him, offered him a seat, and patiently explained every option available. No one laughed. No one whispered. The culture had truly changed. Daniel quietly turned to Sarah. "You didn't just improve this branch," he said. "You changed the way people think." Sarah smiled gently. "I only gave others the same respect I hoped someone would give me." At that moment, Daniel's mother entered the bank carrying a small bouquet of white flowers. She handed them to Sarah. "I knew from the first moment we met that your kindness wasn't an act," she said warmly. "It was simply who you are." Sarah accepted the flowers with grateful eyes. For the first time in many years, she realized that every hardship she had endured had prepared her for this moment. As Daniel, his mother, and Sarah stood together in the bright afternoon sunlight, the bank felt less like a business and more like a place built on trust. Sometimes, the greatest investment is not money. It is kindness, because money can open doors, but character opens hearts. The end.